So I want to talk with you briefly this morning about the ways our faith and our scriptures can teach us about life during these very, very challenging times. I call this message Striving Through the Pandemic. I picked three very short passages from Scripture that I believe may help our understanding. First, way at the back of the Bible is a very short letter from Paul to his young companion Timothy. And when he wrote this short letter, Paul, who was then regarded as a very elderly man, was incarcerated in a Roman prison, awaiting his own execution. Yet it was not Paul, but his own young friend who was frightful, concerned, and losing faith. And so it's Paul, in his circumstances, writing words of encouragement to the young, shaken Timothy. This is from chapter 1, verses 6 and 7. Paul wrote, "Thus I remind you to rekindle the gift of God that is within you." The gift is within you. "For God did not give us a spirit of timidity," or fearfulness, of frightfulness, a spirit of timidity, "but instead gave us within ourselves a spirit of power and love and self-control." In this way, Paul was encouraging Timothy to remember that within himself was the indwelling Spirit of God, and that regardless of how challenging those circumstances were around him, that indwelling Spirit of God had provided him with the means to overcome those challenges. That he should not be timid or fearful, but he should rely upon God's gift of self-control, strength, and love. The second passage that I've selected is from the Gospel of Matthew. And it's a statement by Jesus as he was traveling from the north up in Galilee where his ministry had been. And he's on his way from Galilee down to Jerusalem, where his many accusers and oppressors were awaiting him. And as he traveled along, he was greeted by thousands of followers who were there to see his healings and to listen to his words. And as they gathered around him, someone said, "Lord, will those who are saved be few? Will those who are saved be few?" And Jesus said to them, "Strive to enter by the narrow door. Strive to enter through the narrow door. For many, I tell you, will seek to enter and will not be able. For some are first who will be last, and some who are last will be first." And the final passage, very short passage from Matthew. It's from essentially the Christmas story. You're all familiar with the story. It's about the three kings, or the three wise men, who have come from their country looking for the Christ child. They stop and are interviewed by King Herod, who has bad intentions for the Christ child and perhaps for them. And he commissions them to go out and seek out where is this Christ child born, and then to come back and report to him. And the three wise men, the three kings, they go and find Jesus. And now they want to get back home, but they decide not to go back to Herod because they suspect that no good will come of it. And the passage is simply those three wise men being warned of the situation, quote, "departed to their country but by another way. But by another way. So these are the three passages that I think may help us in this present situation where we are reminded that we should not be timid or frightful, that within us is the Spirit of God that provides strength and love and self-control, and that we should use this time to strive to enter through the narrow door into the presence of God, to develop a genuine relationship with God. And then, as this pandemic ends and we return to our country, to our own present time, we go by another way. We go with the lessons that we have learned as we have strived to enter through that narrow door. So we all know that these are terrible times. The virus is killing people, making people sick all over the world, including here in Middlebury. It's not safe for us even to be in this beautiful sanctuary together. And the horrors of climate change are becoming more pressing and more obvious every day, with what seem like a never-ending cascade of natural disasters such as hurricanes and tornadoes and floods and wildfires and melting ice caps and earthquakes and drought and so on. And we read that our country has just gone through the worst economic quarter since those records were kept 75 years ago. Parents don't know whether their kids will be safe going back to school. The growing number of the unemployed don't know if there is any sort of safety net underneath them or their families. Businesses don't know if they can survive another week. Renters this week now are finding out if they'll be evicted from their homes. We're all being buffeted not only by the sickness of the pandemic, but also by all of these collateral impacts and the resulting spiritual and physical isolation, poverty, and desperation are not good for our spirits. And our communities, consequently, are breaking down with riots and rage. So this is really bad, and it's getting worse. And we can recognize in these days that we often feel overwhelmed, and there are so many good reasons for feeling overwhelmed. But the fact that it's understandable does not make it, for those who are faithful, to be excusable. We don't need to be defeated, and we don't need to feel the need for excuses, and we won't be defeated if we refuse to collude with our fears and instead maintain our conviction that God has more love for us than our hearts are capable of receiving it. Will we collude with the fear that tells us, no, we can't? Or, hard as it may be, do we continually affirm the overwhelming love and strength and peace of our Creator? So things are bad and getting worse. And when things get bad and worse, we have to get better. So how do we do that? How do we get better in times like this? Well, I believe that these three passages from the Bible have a special meaning for all of us at times like this. And it's a meaning that is repeated throughout the Old Testament, the New Testament, the entire Bible, through the wisdom literature, the book of Job. It's a consistent message, and we have to take it seriously. What I'm talking about is the inward trajectory during this time into our own sense of spirit, embracing that Spirit of God, that third person of the Trinity that is embedded within each one of us, that each one of us is endowed with, and that by striving through that narrow door into your inner person can lead to an immediate, direct, and overwhelming encounter with the divine. A presence that is there right now within each one of us, welcoming us and empowering us. Now, I know that the traditionally good Calvinist forebearers of Connecticut Congregationalists haven't focused so intently over the past couple hundred years on this third person of the Trinity, the Holy Spirit. It's been kind of left to the Roman Catholics, the Orthodox, and the evangelicals. But I think now is the time. We shouldn't let a good pandemic go to waste. All that redemptive suffering that can spur us, can lead us, can drive us into a deeper understanding with the Holy Spirit within us. This time is one of those thin places where the spiritual world becomes much more accessible to us. We can read these times and recognize the Spirit within us, and we can strive to enter that narrow door to a fuller embrace and understanding of the divine presence. It's a matter of not simply doing more, because there are real practical limits on what we can effectively do in this world to make things better, but it's more a matter of being more, of thinking more about the things that really matter. These days, we tend to know so little about the things that really matter. It's almost as though our souls have shriveled up so much that we have lost the appetite for all that gives us astonishment and awe and wonder and reverence at everything in God's creation around us. I think the real reason that so many people today are essentially functional atheists is because they simply don't want to think about those big questions, like why are we going through these terrible times, and where is our God now, and what are we doing to strive through that narrow door to encounter the real living presence of the Holy Spirit. Unfortunately, our state of religiosity here in the Middlebury Congregational Church isn't going to get us through that narrow door by itself. Remember, Christ said that in that Matthew passage that some who are now first will end up last. And I also have to remind me and everyone else that we church-going Christians shouldn't have any great cause for churchy smugness. We may believe that religion is a good thing, like social security and regular exercise, but we don't want to overdo it, because it might be bad for the heart. So knowing about faith and knowing about worship is not what I am talking about here. I'm talking about the open-hearted, welcoming, and enthusiastic using of the gift of God's Spirit within and around us. I don't know if there's a real word called pneumosclerosis, but if there isn't, there should be. I just made it up. That's where the Spirit hardens and atrophies and weakens and becomes essentially useless from underuse. Through the grace of God, we each have the gift of God's Spirit within each of us. But we have to welcome that gift and use it. I'm completely convinced that spiritual gifts increase through constant use. And now more than at any other time, is when we should be using those gifts. We need to step away from our timidity, our fearfulness, our fear, our pain, our sickness, and our suffering, and instead strive to enter through that narrow door into the comforting and loving and powerful world of the presence of God's Spirit. Let's not waste this horrible time of pandemic and all these other punishing catastrophes. This is our opportunity and perhaps our necessity to go deep and spend more time on the edge of our insides in close communion with God's Spirit of strength and love and loving kindness. We're not going to achieve that inner embrace of the divine solely through performance, but only by the grace of God and divine reality underlying and inherent in all things. So deep prayer, deep contemplation, deep efforts to understand Scripture, deep awareness of what is around us, and silence and peacefulness. That way we can embrace the spirituality of simplicity, letting go and recognizing that this time, even among the terrors, is enough. Right here, right now, is enough. This is what we really need. Now is the time we can move from mindless consumerism and greed and self-centered materialism that can only leave us with meaninglessness. And now is the time of relative simplicity, where we can genuinely encounter that God-shaped hole in our hearts and our souls that yearns to be filled with prayer and contemplation and stillness and loving kindness. Now, more than ever, we can come to clearly understand the message of the Bible about the care for our world and for ourselves and for our fellow creatures. We can more clearly understand that the neglect of those suffering the most in our community simply cannot be tolerated. We can understand the divine imperative to help those imprisoned physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and economically. And we can demand of our leaders and our fellows that they be healing, generous, compassionate, and just. In closing, I'm reminded that the ancient Greek physicist Archimedes said that you have to have a lever and a place to stand before you can change the world. So levering ourselves up from our stance on a strong spiritual base can help each one of us change the world and beat not only the pandemic, but also all these other catastrophes. We can return, with the grace of God, to the world and the communities we previously loved, without timidity, but by a different way, by striving spiritually through the narrow door that is now open to us. Amen. Let us pray. Now, my God, help me strive through the narrow doors and protect me, O Lord, from those pandemic spores. Bless, O Lord, the care that I take not to worsen this dreaded outbreak. Guide me safely through the day and bring me home, masked and okay. Amen.